This video is going to be another video in the spirit of don't replace it, fix it. I've got this beautiful Bang Olufsen stereo or record player. It's the Beogram 2400. I think there's a 2402 model. They look very similar, and there may be some other ones that have the same problem I'm dealing with here. A friend of mine gave me this record player saying, hey, if you can fix it, then you can have it. And I decided that I wanted to do that because I've been wanting one that's a really high quality unit, got a nice wood base, really heavy. It's just a high quality record player. It doesn't belong in the trash. The problem with it is that the switch broke and fell inside the case. So I got to take it apart to get that switch back out. That's the control switch that shifts between 45 RPMs, 33 RPMs, and then some other functions, speeding up and slowing down the turntable. So let's get this thing apart and see what needs to happen. First thing I've got to do is take off the turntable cover here because I'm going to have to flip this thing over and we don't want it falling apart or damaging the stylus. It just pulls straight up and we're going to set that aside, and here you can see the internal functions, the motor, the band that turns the turntable. And now we got to flip this over and take the bottom casing off. Looks like there are 5 Phillips head screws that need to come out. One here, and then 3 across the back that holds these tabs in place. So we're going to pop those off with a Phillips head and open it up. All right, here we are with that opened up. I had to take all the little pieces out because the switch had completely disintegrated. All kinds of pieces in here. It goes right here. And now let me show you what that looked like. So what I found when I pulled the phonograph apart was this switch assembly that was completely disintegrated, fell apart inside the case. You can see here that it's broken. There's some broken pieces. Here's another broken piece. This was pushed down inside, but what I had to do was reverse engineer this because I've never worked on one of these before, so I reassembled it and I was able to get it back together. So I'm going to put this back together for you to show you how it's assembled, and then I'm going to try to come up with a backing plate to screw this against the inside of the phonograph so that it works properly. First thing I'm going to do is set this inside of this assembly here. Now you can see this is slotted and there's a little tab in there. I don't know if I can focus on it. See if I can get a focus. Right there. And that slot should go right into that tab. And there we go. Now what this little wheel does is adjust the speed of the turntable. So if you want to get perfect accuracy when you're turning your records, then that's what this device is for. And there's a little rheostat here that's slotted, as you can see. Again, I got to get it focused. That goes on to the arm of this. But before we put this on, we got to put the button on the inside. So we're going to turn this upside down. We're going to set the button in here. Make sure that everything is aligned straight up, so the numbers at the top look appropriate to the elements on the button. I'm going to turn it over and place this piece on top. All right, so it's assembled, sandwiched. Those metal contacts are obviously on the inside, and I've got this little adjustment knob working properly. I'm going to put a rubber band around it to hold it all together, and then we'll move on to the next step. The next piece is this arm, and you can see it's got indentions here that go along with the metal contacts inside. So we're going to insert that from the right to the left because there's a wire connection that goes on this side. And when we get back to the turntable, we'll show how that's connected. So I actually misspoke, and we're learning together as I go through this, but that little arm turns as you push the button. So there's little tabs on the underside of this button that are going to adjust this back and forth, just like that. So now what I got to do is find a backing plate that will hold this in place as it's screwed into the phonograph through these 2 points, these 2 locations. I put the tape on here earlier because this piece right here is falling apart. But I think what I'm going to do is use a piece of plastic, something like this, and I'm going to cut the size as a backing plate to hold all this together when I put the screws in. I used some tin snips to snip that plastic, and I created a backing plate, and I've drilled some holes in it for the screws, and this should hold this component in place. So I'm going to cross my fingers. I may have to do some trimming if this is too close to the edge of the record player, but we're definitely going to try this out. Okay, so let's just cut to the chase. I've really had to scratch my head to try to figure out how to fix this switch. The only thing that's missing now is this little piece here that gives some tactile feel to the little adjustment knob right here when you're pushing it back and forth. But you can see all the broken pieces. So this, I guess, I don't know if this got heat cycled too many times, but all these broken parts. But what I did, I took an aluminum can and I just kept cutting it out and folding it until I could get it to the right thickness so that these screws will go in. That piece of plastic I was using didn't work, but the screws are in now. It's holding this side down. I made sure that I'm not touching any electrical contacts, and then I took a little bracket and I bent it with one last screw to hold the front section down so that this whole thing is now stable. There I'm articulating the switch and it's not going anywhere. I'm not sure if this is going to work. I'm going to put it back together now and see if it works. The thing that's confusing me is this wire mechanism here, which is supposed to basically shift it from 33 RPM to 44 RPM, and I don't know how that works. I have a manual, but the manual doesn't describe this, so I'm going to put it together and see what happens, and then we'll go from there. All right, before I put further investment into this record player, which includes probably a stylus because I don't know the history of that stylus, I wanted to connect it to my stereo and see if I could get some sound out of it, because if the internals are shot, then there's no use in doing that. I mean, there are a lot of these on the market, especially on eBay, as parts units, and I want one that's operational. And I hear there's a big following on these, that these are really nice phonographs. The big problem I got now is that my stereo unit here, the receiver, does not have a phono input, which means it doesn't have a preamp for the record player. The record player does not have a preamp. So I'm going to go ahead and run it and see if I can get some sound out of it, which is going to tell me that I should go forward with a little more investment. Otherwise, I'm not going to do anything else with it. It might just be a paperweight. Let's see. You probably can't hear that, but there is some music coming out. But this is telling me that it is working. I also don't have the ground connected, so that's why there's some static. But here comes the music. And that is fantastic. I'm really excited that with this repair of this switch, which is ugly underneath but looks good on top, I've got a Bang Olufsen high-end record player working properly. So stay tuned. I'm going to do some future videos on this, or I might. If anybody out there has some input into the Beogram 2400, what else I can do to it, or maybe where I can get a stylus that's much cheaper than the way they go for, like 300 plus, I'd really appreciate it. But like I said, if I get more projects done on this, I may do some future videos, or depending on the comments in the comment section. Anyway, don't forget to give me that thumbs up. I hope you appreciated this, and I'll see you next time on Driving Intelligence. Beautiful.